When I was in college and delving into feminism for the first time, masculine language for God began to bother me. If God is, in essence, spirit, why should we call God He and Father? Why not use neutral or even feminine language for God? After all, there is biblical precedent for these other ways of speaking about God. God is a rock, the Alpha and Omega, the great I Am. God is also described as a rock who gives birth, as a mother who comforts her child, as a hen who gathers her chicks under her wings. Maternal imagery for God appears in Christian tradition as well. One of my favorite passages is from the medieval mystic Julian of Norwich, who describes a lactating Christ, nourishing us with the milk of the sacraments. These images reveal something important about God's maternal character and love for us. While depicting God as mother is certainly part of our tradition, it is true that the metaphor of fatherhood is more prevalent. Feminine or impersonal pronouns for God are not used in the Bible. God is consistently described not as she or it, but he. It might be tempting to shrug this off as a limitation of ancient patriarchal cultures. But there is a problem with that excuse. Namely, the religions of those patriarchal cultures were full of goddesses. Female deities and feminine language for gods abounds in the ancient world, except in the Judeo-Christian tradition. Why? Why is that? Why is the father metaphor so central in our tradition? In a modern context, we tend to think about fatherhood and motherhood more in terms of economic roles and duties. Who's earning the money? Who's changing the diapers? But to get at the root meaning of this metaphor, we need to think like a pre-modern. Our thinking needs to be more bodily. Father and mother, in their most basic meaning, refer to the distinct roles of men and women in procreation. A father is a being who creates and gives life outside of himself. There's a physical distance, a transcendence between himself and his offspring from the beginning. A mother, on the other hand, is a being who gestates new life within her own body. During pregnancy, there's no physical separation between mother and child. Until birth, their bodies are one. We can realize the fullness of this metaphor when we also consider how, in the language of tradition, the church is our mother. The church receives the life-giving grace of the transcendent God and brings that grace to fruition, giving spiritual birth and rebirth to us through the sacraments. If we think about fatherhood and motherhood in this bodily way, it becomes clear why father is a more precise metaphor for understanding the relationship between God and creation. This language is not making a value judgment. Fathers are more godlike than mothers. Rather, it allows us to better understand that from the beginning, Creator and creation are distinct. God calls the world into being from outside himself. And yet, God loves us as his children and desires true intimacy with us. The father metaphor is best able to capture this balance of intimacy and transcendence.